Hey friends, welcome back to Artists of the Way. I'm Jon.
I'm Nate.
And we are your hosts. And today we are chatting with
Greg DeWeerd,
Yes.
a lovely man who happens to be my boss.
Yes, he's the art director at Boileau and Company. So he does a lot of work with design and with different clients. But Nate wanted to have him on. He's got a really good sense of human connection and what's the human element to art and to design and to this ever-changing world with technology. Of course, the design world is really in the trenches with AI and with growing technology.
Yeah. Greg does most of what he does does design stuff like I do, though he also oversees our overall design team, which includes our video folks as well. But he's just a lovely guy who really engages well with his coworkers, and him and I are always having interesting conversations. And it was great to have him on the podcast and hear his heart. And it was really nice for me too. And I think you'll enjoy it.
It was a great episode. So yeah, without further ado, here's Greg DeWeerd.
Now, what's your background? Like, how did you get into being interested in design and art, if you will?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think growing up, I always was the kid who liked to draw, like to make things. I liked pottery. Yeah. I like to play around and with that kind of stuff. And I think most people that have enjoyed creating things or being artistic throughout their life have kind of had that experience where you're a kid and everyone kind of looks like, oh yeah, my son knows how to do that. He just makes stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I was very much that kid. I had that around me, and there's some pressure that comes with that, but there's some just kind of joy and excitement that comes with that. And I think when I was in high school, I was kind of pushing back against that a little bit, and I have a lot of reasons why. I didn't grow up in a family, in a culture where art was necessarily seen as a thing that you could do, I guess, outside of just kind of playing and having fun, right? Yeah. And so I pushed back a little bit against my internal, just desire to create and make and put things out into the world. And kind of just looked at different options. I actually went to business school for the first, actually marketing specifically, for the first 4 years of my college career. And
did you get a degree in that?
I do. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I have a degree in marketing and communications. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that, quite frankly. It was just like, this is the practical thing, and I'm feeling very pragmatic about this, right? I do have an element of my personality that is very just kind of like do the right thing because it's the thing to do, right? Yeah. And so I did that, and I started working in that path for 6 months to a year, and didn't really like it all that much.
What kind of work were you doing at first?
Yeah, so I was a sales and marketing, a sales and marketing team essentially. I was by myself at an internet provider here in Byron Center, Michigan. Yeah. And I did a lot of just kind of like over the phone sales, but then I'd also make the postcards, send them out. And then I had the opportunity to make the website, actually. And that was kind of like the door opened for me. I was like, wait, I love doing this stuff. I love making things. This is it right here, right? And so that's kind of I became a designer after that, right? And so I started to make websites, had some fun doing stuff in Photoshop, things like that. And then
that company let you go back to school, is that right?
Yeah, so that company actually, which was named FreedomNet Solutions, so they're no longer around, but they're just a small internet provider. And I had the chance to make the website, and then they essentially said, hey, if you want to go back to art school or something, we'll help you kind of do that. Nice. And so I started working part-time and went back to art school, really and went to Kendall College of Art and Design from there. And and I've been a graphic designer really ever since. Spent 3 years there learning graphic design, and now that's 12 years into that now, and I'm an art director. So yeah.
How old were you when you went to design school then?
This is actually always tricky for me to remember. So we just had our first son.
Okay.
And that was 2016. So I was mid 30s.
Okay.
Roughly mid low 30s. Yeah, 32. 32. So.
I love that. I think that's inspiring. It should be for people that like, it's okay. You can like do what you actually want to do, even though you're not coming fresh out of high school or college.
Yeah.
It's kind of risky. Like you have a family and stuff, but
yeah,
I'm so glad you did.
It was, definitely all the anxiety that you're kind of, summing up, I guess, there was definitely there. Where it's like, is this the right thing to do? We just had a kid, just had a son. Like, is this something we want to be doing right now? And my wife, fortunately, was really, really supportive.
Yeah, I was
going to
ask that she must have been.
She was incredible. She's like, yeah, you want it, go do it, right? And it helps to have the support staff around you and the people that are willing to kind of like, hey, we'll pay for a part of this, right? To do that. So my job was super supportive, and my mentors there were really, really just kind of supportive of that me taking that leap, I guess. But yeah, it definitely felt like the thing that I was being called to do. Right? And I think there was this tug inside of me that was kind of saying, why aren't you making things that so there's a lot of ways we can go with this, but design and art, I think, are kind of the same thing and also different things all at the same time. And I think what drew me to design was the very, very kind of like pragmatic problem solving side of it, but then the expression side of it was which led me to kind of the graphical elements of it, right? And so I think what I was really feeling was this desire to kind of like put something out there that was supporting a type of communication or communicating to an audience, but then also doing it in an exciting, kind of like interesting visual way.
Yeah.
Right, because your like problem solving pragmatic side could be like, I'm not just expressing things just to throw it into the wind or just to I have me out there in the world. I'm actually solving a problem, but I can do it in a way that is interesting and creative and makes the world a better place in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the distinction here, really, between to me at least, between design and art. And I've been through different versions of like, is design art, is art design? Are they the same thing? Are they separate?
I think we've talked about this before. I'm interested where you kind of are now.
Yeah, honestly, Nate, I think you have helped me frame this slightly differently because of just kind of conversations we've had and different things that have happened. But when I first got out of school, my initial thought was kind of like they're totally different things. In fact, I don't even think I am an artist in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. And I think why I was thinking that was very much I was leaning into the problem solving side of it. So I just recently gotten into accessibility design, right? And like when you're thinking about how to make something usable for a certain audience, right? Like there are certain design decisions you make. So contrast you're using,
right? The colors can't be. You can't have like a red on a green type of thing because like people with seeing disability is not going to be able to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some the very obvious stuff of red on green, but even just like the type of blue you can put on white, right?
Exactly.
Like there's levels of contrast that you're shooting for to make
never
something
put yellow
accessible.
on white. That
exactly.
Rarely
Can't
works.
read it. Can't read it. Right. Exactly. So like that stuff was really interesting to me, and to me that felt like, well, this isn't really art. This is very much like doing a thing for a reason to meet a specific need and to solve this problem that exists out there, right? And so
we
it's
have
really
rules,
there's rules around it, right? And so I was really leaning into that. But then as I kind of like worked in that space and kind of became more involved as kind of like a designer, I started to see some of the reasons of like, well, hey, it can be this thing and also still be beautiful and still still have a level of just kind of joy that's expressed from it. And that's actually something that Nate has helped me kind of see is you can be practical and you can be solution oriented and also still really have fun doing it, right? And so to me, design is both of those things, and I think that's oftentimes what distinguishes it from art. Is for me, visual art tends to be a thing that there's not necessarily a motive for the particular piece that's being put out there. In some cases, I think there is, but not in all cases, right? Like I don't know if Salvador Dali was trying to express anything particular with his paintings, or not express, but like communicate something intentionally. Whereas when I go in and make something, there's very much hey, we need to tell an audience about this particular thing. How are we going to do that? And so it's less self-expression and more expressing the particular thing that needs to be communicated.
Right. What were you gonna say? Yeah.
Do you find the boundaries around that helpful? Like it's helpful to be able to play within those boundaries, or do you find that restrictive?
Yeah, for me, I find that to be incredibly helpful, actually. So the constraints around how to do something and when to do something allow me to kind of, blossom, I guess, in the container, if that makes sense, right? It's because if you can go anywhere and the sky's the limit, it's really hard to define where you even should be or why you want to be there. So,
like, you don't have to invent the whole world anew every time you make something. Like, you do a lot of websites at our company, and you have like a system of knowing that these things work and this kind of spacing between sections works, and then you don't have to worry about that part of it, but you then can focus on the actual interesting part. Since you don't have to worry about the structural stuff, you kind of got down. I mean, you change it up and stuff still, but it gives you kind of more freedom to exercise some of the front part. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, so what you're kind of alluding to is, so when you make a website, essentially what you're doing is you're measuring, kind of the space between elements, right? And you're doing this for lots of different reasons. One of the reasons you're doing it is it's just visually more appealing to the way humans experience it, right? And some of this stuff is done, when in book design and other layout design too. It's very similar in that regard. The distinction for websites oftentimes is, you have a different level of spacing between, like, let's say, the top of the page to the middle of the page to the bottom of the page, the web page, I should say. Right. And so, like, what Nate's alluding to here is the idea that there's kind of a system that is, you start with one level of margin on the top and you stay with that level of margin all the way through to the bottom of the page, right? And this is the grid that Nate and I kind of joke about a lot. But, I believe that grid allows you to create the perfect balance for that particular page, right? And so once you have that stuff solved, it's exactly what you're describing, right? You pick the photography that you want to use, you pick the illustration style, all of those things, and then you can kind of have the more creative expression, I suppose, from that angle of things. Sometimes it's also fun to just pick the right typeface too. Right. So that's really fun too. So
Greg's a true designer. He gets really jazzed about, look at this serif font here. It's like, yes, that is nice.
Yeah, I mean, that is the reason, right? Like, sometimes I wonder about, like I don't know, like, what's the difference between art and design, right? Because, like, yes, like, font design is absolutely an art form, right? I can't do it. I've tried it. It's very difficult to do, right? And but also, I can acknowledge that, like, some of the most beautiful things I've seen is the way a typeface was just created, and it's the flow that it has that's clearly intentional, right? And I think that, I don't know, do most people notice that? Probably not. I know that whenever I mention it to my wife, she's like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Yeah, but it's really great, So.
But why do you think it matters then, basically? Why does what you do matters? Like, people could read the website equally well if it was, like, all black text on all white background type of thing. If, like, all websites were like that. Why does putting a sense of design matter to the viewer, the world in general?
Yeah, I think to your point, if just gathering information was the goal, then yes, all of those things work, right? So just, choose a legible typeface, put it in a layout. Yeah,
technically that is legible.
It is decently legible, yes. Papyrus maybe not, but
Ryan Gosling cringes in the corner.
Yes. Like, you do that, right? And it's like, and it's super legible. It does the thing you need it to do, right? But are you really experiencing any level of kind of just, like, fun and joy out of that, right? And I think that's actually one of the things that I've grown to love about design, is the idea that once you have those things kind of created, you can create an element of just kind of, like, beauty through that experience that isn't there when you're just reading HTML text basically on a website.
We really live in a very, like, each person is in a very small corner of the world. but it's just nice to be able to make that little corner pretty for whoever happens to see it.
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
everyone is making their corner of the world pretty, then you have like a diamond with all of these facets. That's something beautiful.
And that can be done so many different ways.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about the way that having this solid foundation frees you up to play. And I'm immediately thinking about when I play a role, and once I finally have the lines down and I know exactly how this story goes, that's when I'm like, now I can just do some crazy stuff. I can just go on stage and I can boop my fellow actors and I can do all kinds of crazy voices and I can throw myself on the ground and do whatever, because now I have that structure and I know the limits that I can play with. And like thinking about my wife who's beautifying our home, like we have a weird specific home on this little lot in Grand Rapids, but within that lot we're able to play within those limitations. Whereas if we had 40 acres of woods, which I would love, I'm not saying I wouldn't love that, but
you can have a bigger corner, once you're ready for it.
It's a different challenge.
Right. But it is a much broader limit, and having these limits give us a great canvas to be able to play with and just have fun with what flowers do we want to throw in, what choices do we want to make as an actor or an artist in any medium. Yeah, that's cool.
I like what you said too, because Nate and I have certainly talked about this, where the first, at least my workflow or my work process is the first 20% to 30% of a project is doing exactly what you're describing, is laying down the foundation of whatever it's going to be, right? And and then the rest of it is kind of, I don't want to say it's the easy part, but it's definitely the fun part, where it's like it's really just kind of like expressing the entire time, and that's only possible because of the first 3 hours that I spent making that particular thing ready to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Now, when I think about you, Greg, I think of a person who really cares about people in a couple senses. You care about the people around you. I see you at work really engaging with everybody. You make people feel very comfortable and seen and cared about. But a lot of the conversations we have at work is kind of talking about kind of what it means to be human, and how this part of the world or this part of technology is pushing us away from being human, whereas these experiences over here kind of heighten our ability to engage with the world on a grounded human level. And I just like to hear you talk about, that's things like not everybody thinks about, and I wonder why that's important to you, and then if that comes into the way you approach your design or other elements of your life.
So I spend a lot of time thinking about this, mostly because I don't think we do a very good job of it as humans, right? I think we fail to ask the question of why are we doing something, and oftentimes just do it because we can, and I think we have to ask ourselves, is the thing we're doing pro-human, right? Like, are we doing this for something that's going to be a tool that benefits us in our connections that we have? And I think a lot of the things we have done over the past little while have been that. I think that's kind of been the intention, but they've kind of gone sideways and gone away from that. So one of the things I like to try to do is the things that I know are superhuman, right? Like getting together in a room with people and talking to them, going for walks outside and talking to them, for nothing more than just to try to truly understand and know who that person is. I think that is just to go back to foundations, it's just foundationally who we are. I think it's what we need. I sometimes wonder, I don't know if I'm an expert on this, right? But the thing I wonder about is do we all need that more than we actually think we need it, right? I know that sometimes I kick and scream to even do that kind of thing, right? It's like, ooh, but I didn't really want to go to do that. It didn't sound comfortable. And then I did it. And well, that was actually the most rewarding thing I've done all day, right?
Yeah, depending on your personality, you have to push against your your
as an introvert,
introversion,
that's something,
right?
yeah.
Your shyness, and just putting the effort in to push against that natural inclination into yourself is like exhausting. And I think for a lot of people, it just is like doesn't seem worth it.
Well, we definitely don't live in a world that sets us up for that. We live in a world that kind of sets us up for the opposite.
Yeah.
That sets us up to isolate and get more in our own head and deeper into ourselves and more constricted instead of opening up and out more.
And this is what I wonder about, is I wonder if the tools that we've made, so I say tools, but what I'm referring to is, you know, cell phones or smartphones, right? Like social media, all of these things. Like I think the intent for these things was more or less to connect people. I think that, I mean, sure, there may be other reasons, but that was the main reason, right? And I don't know if I think somewhere along the line that started to prove out that is not how we were actually experiencing it. I do think decisions were made through that process to actually turn that into something different too. But I don't necessarily believe that was the original motivation.
We keep
for
people on here a long time. That makes us a lot of money.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Money
And
for
maybe
altruism.
that might be a different conversation, but of course things were there that made that happen. But I do believe that the motivations were rather pure initially. And we just instinctually choose to use them for different reasons, right?
Yeah, it makes me think that, like, because it makes sense that, okay, this is a way, like Facebook, a way for people to connect. You may have friends that live across the country, but you can still see what's going on with their life, and you're connecting with them. No longer do we have to have this, like, this relationship severed because you're moved or you don't get to see each other all the time. The connections are there again. But maybe we're just learning now that, I mean, great idea, but I think you actually have to be together to be together.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, right? It's like I think the tool can be exactly that, right? Like, so I think there are scenarios. So let's just say hybrid work for an example, right? Like, I'm actually a pretty firm believer in the idea that, hybrid work will pretty much work across the board as long as you have a trustworthy group of people that's able to do it, right? So, like, let's say hypothetically 3 days in the office and 2 days out of the office or something like that, right? So I think you're able to, kind of fit both needs. So being together, getting that opportunity to react or engage and kind of, have that relationship with each other, but then also having the opportunity to have some of the benefits that come from the outside of it. I think both of those things can be true. I don't know. I've not experimented with that, but I think that's true.
I think I worked a hybrid job for a little while, and I found that I found it to be really helpful. And I think a hybrid job, I think it can highlight some of the good of those tools, where me being able to work from home, if I'm a responsible worker, I'm getting everything done and I'm communicative, it also kind of frees me up to live my life a little bit more while I work, which I think is oftentimes the pure intention of a lot of technology is let's give you more time to be human. And hybrid work is one of those times where I feel like that's actually done that for me. Not 100% of the time, because I'm human, and sometimes I will just choose to sit in bed and not do anything productive with the time outside of, alongside work that I could. But oftentimes it was like, oh, great, I can talk to my wife. I can go on a walk on my lunch break, and that's great. I can, I can read a book, or I can do this other thing, as long as I'm also still, like you said, being responsible, and there's still a level of onus on the worker to be checking in like that.
I think the main point is they can coexist, right? Like they can. I believe that to be true, right? Because I don't believe in a scenario where one is the only option, right?
Because I definitely needed that touch base with.
I do believe there is a better option of if one is the only option.
I agree.
Yes.
Well, because I definitely needed that touch base of at least a couple days going into the office and seeing the whole team that I'm working with, maintaining those relationships. Yeah. It was something that was very important and would rejuvenate me and be like, okay, we're doing all this work together. But I think the hybrid was a nice way to have two sides, like some of the positives of both of the sort of out of control monsters we've created in our American world, our Western world, really, just of the career and of technology. We could get some of the positives and still be fighting both the negatives, but I think they complemented each other well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
My mind is feeling like very untrusting of people. And that it's like with the social media and I think with like work from home, like I just don't trust people to do it well, but but as I'm hearing you guys and trying to think, well, I mean, truly we can't trust anybody to do anything right for the existence of humanity, and we do have to still maintain freedom in there because all good really comes out of people's free choice to be able to do things, and that comes with risk, which is annoying.
When I'm thinking about the hybrid work one in particular, social media is kind of a different thing, but with hybrid work, a lot of that I think also comes down to the leader and what are they doing. Like there's a balance in leading, which I'm kind of relearning again now, of being able to trust the person while also being able to check in and make sure that they're doing what you've trusted them to do.
Yeah.
And supporting and encouraging or correcting where need be.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Good leadership, kind of helping. You have the freedom to do the right thing, but we're kind of here as guardrails.
Yes.
If you start swaying to the side, that's a good way to think about it.
Thanks.
And I can't speak to the what it looks like as far as leading a team like that. I don't know what that would be like, and I do have some questions and curiosities about what that would look like. But from a pure just kind of quality of life standpoint, for an individual, I think there's a lot of good stuff there, right? Yeah. I think you touched on it a little bit. Where you had an opportunity to go for a walk or spend time with your wife or something like that, right? And I think those are very real things that a not having to commute to a place can bring you, right? Yeah. Do I believe that I would excel in an environment where I did that every single day of the week? No, I don't, because we did do that during the pandemic,
we got to test it.
and I got rather depressed through that, right?
Yep.
Learned a lot of things about myself through that, right? And so, but I do think that there is an opportunity to have it be a portion for some of those reasons, right? And then Nate and I go into the office every single day, and it's one of the main reasons why we like being there, right? Is we like working with a group of people that we really enjoy, and we get to know them, and I wouldn't want to lose that either.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So from a quality of life standpoint, I think it makes some sense. But.
Yeah, and if you think about it, most of the humanity had a scenario like that because like people were farmers or tradesmen that usually kind of alongside their family. They're working the land with their family. And I like to kind of try to hold on to like the traditional thing, which right now is like, yes, people go to work 5 days a week, but that's actually not the most traditional thing because most of humanity, they were around their family more. And maybe to your guys' point, a hybrid thing or sometimes even work from home is a way to bring that back again.
Yeah. And I, like you, I'm hesitant to say work from home all the time because I think it's a very important social structure for us. And when you isolate and you're spending all of your time in that digital environment, it gives a lot of the same negatives as social media, where it is just like, I am just sort of getting sucked into a very isolating environment, and it gets harder to reach out, and it gets harder to stay motivated in the work that you're doing and achieve the work that you're doing.
Right, because also we're not in the scenario where our work now is getting up early and going outside and interacting with animals and the ground and moving around.
Right.
Yeah.
It's if you're working from home, you're probably hardly moving at all unless you're very intentional to make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, and also my job isn't to wake up in the morning, do art direction and graphic design for 8 hours and then leave, right? I mean that is what I'm paid to do, but also there's 3 hours out of that day where I'm just interacting with people,
Yep.
right? And like that's the stuff you lose,
Yep.
right? And
Absolutely.
even if it is a Zoom call, it's not the same thing. We've all had that experience, right? It's like that can be fine, but it's also
Yep.
just not the same thing.
Yep.
And
Our work seems very special. Our bosses really value that in-person connection.
Yeah,
and they're like good with us like going for walks in the middle of the day, as long as we're getting our work done, and just being an environment where Greg and I sit kitty corner to each other, and if we look at just the right angle, we can see each other's face. And sometimes I'll just notice Greg will say, "Hey," and we'll just look through that corner and we'll just talk about something for a second, or stand up and talk. And it's beautiful. It's like one of my favorite parts of what I do.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're a leader, you can really have great impact on people to make these kind of human important things able to happen.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to the design art space, would you say that, like, thinking about the humanness of things, does that affect how you design a website, a brochure, a logo at all? That since that's the core part of you, probably don't even think about it necessarily, how it impacts your work. But if you were to think about that, would you say that matters in design?
Yeah. I think I'm probably a little more. I'll pull back a little more to a more macro kind of view of this. So it's a little harder for me to think about how that applies to my day to day, I guess, on particular projects. But what I do think is that creativity and or expression is an inherently human thing, and I think so. For through that lens, yes, every single thing I do throughout the day, even at work and while designing things, is me kind of, taking that core piece of me that is that desire to express and kind of create, and using that piece of me to put something out into the world and to be kind of interacted with and engaged with.
Yeah, and I like you bringing it back out to that. It's just like, well, it's just what I do is human and creative, and so that I'm always doing that. I like, though, also that I've seen times where you will really argue might not be the word, but firmly advocate for a certain direction on for a design. And for maybe the outsider, it's a very small thing, this color versus that color. But I like it because you're a human making that decision that this is going to be the best thing, and that came from an intentional person versus just accepting whatever a machine spat out at us. Like, it's a vending machine, we type in F9 and get logo and just go on from there.
Yeah, I think on that, I think so much of what I try to approach from the perspective I try to approach design from is that it's going to be used by other humans, right? And so I don't know, like we're kind of dancing around AI a little bit right now, and so I think we might as well talk about it, right? I think that's one of my biggest fears, right? Is that we all at some point are going to be interacting with stuff that other humans didn't make and or say, right? Yeah. And like, what does that mean for our existence, right? It's like part of the reason why I even care to read a book is the fact that another human wrote it and they're saying something through this, right? Or the reason I care to interact with a website is because another human put it together and made intentional choices to for it to operate the way that it operates, or look the way that it looks, or read the way that it reads. And I don't know. I don't know if humans are meant to not do that. I think we're meant to communicate with one another and kind of experience just each other's perspectives through art, through creativity, right? And
Well, it's interesting that feels like it goes back to everything we were just talking about making sure there's space for people to connect.
Yeah.
And how the goal of these tools is to give us the time to be more free, but these tools have a tendency to instead take over and disrupt that human connection.
Yeah.
Where we engage with works of art because we're engaging with people. Like we're really engaging with the human soul and another human soul.
Yeah.
It's just our road to that is art. Whereas when AI gets involved, it can easily close that door instead of assisting the artist in ways to make it easier for them. And it can do that if the tool is used right.
Yeah.
But like with social media, like with, working from home, it can easily shut that off and then just silo us even more, like we were talking about.
Yeah. I think there is a difficult responsibility as people who use technology to find ways that can use it to better what you do in a human forward way, and not just do everything for you and have a nothing talking to people, and versus just like I have a tendency just to want to like, let's not engage with this at all type of thing. But I don't know that that's a good approach either, because like I don't know, I'm still sorting it out. Like there is great potential in like people inventing things. Like God didn't only make us to express things through art. He also gave people amazing capacity to invent things, and some of those inventions disrupt past inventions, like the car disrupted the buggy.
Right.
Both were invented, but both great things came out of both. The buggy maker went out of business because of the car, but then so many other things got to happen, and businesses happened because the car got invented. And so want to have some trust that God is going to look after us and humanity while he's enabling people to invent really incredible things. Like the invention of AI is, I don't understand how it even happens. I don't understand how a computer itself happens. But God inspired people. I don't know if you can say that exactly, but he gave people the capacity to invent this.
Yeah.
And so now we have to wrestle with how do we use it in a good way versus just like destructive way, which I can very much go to that space of like people are just having computers write their emails for them, and it's like you were saying, Greg, like I'm supposed to be reading something that nobody said, and I don't think
I think it was the Pope that had a quote a couple of months ago where he essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said, I don't want to read the words or that have never been said, or something like that, right? That's essentially what he's alluding to. It's like, if a human didn't say them, do I need them in my life? Right?
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that at work, and I was like, wow, that's
it's a
really
good quote,
well
right?
said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all are, Nate. I think we're all wrestling with it. As an artist, as a creator, right? I don't know exactly where it's going to go or what it's going to look like. That's why I continue to go back to what I initially said at the beginning of, is it pro-human? Like if you can kind of answer the question of, is the thing I'm doing aligning with the value I believe is kind of just reserved for humanity, then I think that's the lens we should be looking at it through. And we probably all look at that slightly differently, but
like
but
what
I
qualifies.
would and I that's the part I'm wrestling with, right? I think changes frequently for me. But I do think that's the question, or one of the questions we should be asking ahead of time before it's is this a thing that we should be outsourcing to a non-human to do, right? And sometimes the answer is probably yes, and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
That again feels like it takes a lot of intentionality and energy, where we may not naturally feel that inclination in the world that we're built in right now. Like going on a walk with a coworker that maybe we don't know very well, or talking to them and asking, hey, how's your day? How's this life thing going? Where I definitely am like, I would probably prefer to have my headphones in and just think about all the things that I want to think about and just do my job with my headphones in, because I'm an introvert and that's my natural inclination. But is that the healthiest for me, and is that the healthiest for them? Likewise, it would be really easy for me to give AI a bunch of the things that I need done and say, can you give that back to me? But is that the best for me as a human? And more importantly, is that the best for other people as a human? Is that the best for other people who could do that thing for me? And maybe for them, that would be enriching, which is more inconvenient for me and takes more energy if I have to reach out to this other person, or I have to take more time and I have to think through this. But it may benefit humankind and a life that is bent more towards being truly human in the way we were created to be, as opposed to bent inward and isolated.
And I think, I mean, that makes me think of just the amount of growth that you go through doing all of those things that make you uncomfortable, right? So as an introvert, I don't like writing all that much. I'm not particularly good at it, and it's because it's hard for me, right? But every single time I write an email, I know exactly the thing I'm trying to say by the time I'm done writing it. I didn't know what I was trying to say when I started writing it, and so like I think one of our coworkers once said that for them, writing is thinking, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, it totally is that for me. I never thought about it that way, but I think oftentimes if I'm writing something, I'm formulating those ideas and understanding it better. And I wonder a bit about, like, if we lose some of that resistance to doing the things that are hard for us, are we losing just the intentionality entirely around it? Because I also could write something real quick, throw it into ChatGTP, and it will give me a very sendable email, and I'll sound real smart when I say it. Right?
It'll have an M dash and everything,
but it will only be sort of what I was thinking, because it's like, sure, that sounds like a polished version. It sounds good. I'll send it, right? And it's like, that's not really what I thought exactly, right? And I don't know. I don't know what the ramifications of that are, but I do wonder what they are and what they will be if we go farther down that road.
It definitely concerns me, because I think that's right, that writing is thinking. I know it is for me, and we're just making it really easy for people to not think in that way. And then what's that going to go do to our society if we just have a bunch of people who didn't have to do like the hard research to do the research, and then the hard writing to figure out what they actually want to say and what they think about a topic? It's like, how long is AI even going to be working if we don't have like humans creating things to put on the internet that are actually good thoughts,
Well, I don't know. I don't remember where it was that did the study, but have you guys seen the study of brains that use AI versus the ones that don't?
Heard about that.
I don't think I've seen this exactly. I've heard a bit about it.
And it's just terrifying, the amount of change in a brain that used AI just over the course of a year. I feel like it was Harvard or somewhere. It was like, let's study the brains of students who are using AI versus the brains of students who aren't. And the decrease in brain activity and the just degradation of that critical thinking ability and what was happening in the brain. It was less active, it was less alive, like it was a worse brain than the brain of the ones who weren't using AI. And I was just like, holy cow, that's just terrifying.
And that comes back again to what you were talking about earlier of why do we do whatever we do? And I don't think people always think about, like, we're all here to live and have a good human life, and to support and love each other and to glorify God. But it comes down to people and relationships, and if this is hurting people, we need to be careful.
It's a topic that altogether keeps me up at night and wakes me up in the morning, because I care about it, right? I think the way we connect with each other is the most important thing, if on a purely human level.
For sure.
Bring it a little bit away from the tech side and back kind of to like the design art side and the faith side. How does your faith impact your work life, whether it be different parts of your day or even specifically your designing? is it like, I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to like give a haircut, you know, and it's like, oh yes, these are Christian strokes I'm making with the thing, and likewise, there's amazing.
I'm gonna cut the Christian fish into every hair that I cut.
Yeah,
and they won't know.
And likewise, there's like, you know, amazing designers that most of them like aren't Christians, but do you find that it affects what you do at all?
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm going to pull back a little bit on this one because I think I believe that. So when we're interacting with one another, right? What we're doing is we're interacting with Jesus, right? Like we all have Jesus in us. We all are made in His likeness, and I think that's why connecting with other humans is so critically important to us. I know that's why I deeply feel that's so important to me. But if you extend that out to, you know, expressing yourself, putting something out into the world, people interacting with that thing. I believe that our creativity and our capacity for beauty and for, you know, just joy in creating things all comes from our Creator, from Jesus, right? And it's really difficult for me to see goodness in the world, whether it's Christian or not Christian, and not believe that it's from Christ, right?
Well, it's like, that's straight biblical right there.
Right. And I you know, I think that's it. That's where it's like when I experience a beautiful thing, whether it's man-made or whether it's a gorgeous tree, you know, right? It's like this beauty in and of itself feels as if like it's like God is right there, right? And I think that much in the same way, and I'm looking at a picture of, you know, Darth Vader and
it's a beautiful
Luke
picture of Darth
Skywalker, which
Vader.
is actually
I really need to get that hung up.
which is actually
I got that for you for
an
Christmas.
interesting good versus evil. Interesting good versus evil contrast here. But like, in a lot of ways, that's how I experience the world. So when I see evil and the lack of goodness around, I also think that is entirely biblical, and it's and that's where Jesus isn't, where God isn't, right? And I think in so a much more kind of like macro view of things. I think about that every day when I make something, right? Or when I interact with other people, is like that element of us is just so constant and everywhere, right? And I don't know. I guess that's a very abstract thought, but it's like
I really love that.
I don't know how to get there to the end.
No, that's really beautiful and helpful for me to hear, even as I do my work, which is the same work that you do. But that any good that's in the world is put there by God, and I can be a part of His hands in putting that there, is a really lovely thought. Makes me think of, it's not usually applied in this way, but let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And I usually think of that in terms of like, do a kind thing for someone so they can see that's from God. But also in everything we do, creating something beautiful is letting our light shine. So that hopefully people will see that and remember that God is there creating good in the world. Something else that you said at the beginning of that statement made me think of, there's a line from the musical Les Mis that at the end of the show, it's kind of like the conclusion of the show. It is the line, "To love another person is to see the face of God." I think that's all. I really appreciate you saying that. That's beautiful.
That's great.
And I think you do a great job of that. And at work, we're lucky that like there's several people at our office that are believers, but not everybody is. Some of the people really love aren't, but I think they see a great representative of the face of God in you and how you love them there.
Yeah, I think my interactions with people that don't believe the same things I believe actually has helped me kind of, you know, flesh some of that out, because I've had a hard time wrestling with how does someone who doesn't believe the same thing I believe do so much good in the world. Right?
Yeah.
And for me, that journey was kind of what led me to some of the belief that goodness just has to be from Christ, and then the opposite is not, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should start wrapping us up here. But thank you so much. This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah.
Are there any resources that you would recommend to anybody who's wanting to explore more their artistic journey or their spiritual journey and the intersection of those two?
I don't have any resources other than just go for a walk outside and
that's a great resource. Honestly,
go for
Where
a bike
can they
ride.
do that? Do you have a link?
click this link and you'll be going on a walk.
National Geographic.
No, that's great. That's so refreshing.
Thanks so much for coming on, Greg. It's
Thank
been
you,
really
guys.
lovely.
It's been a pleasure to be here.